Prior to the arrival of the European settlers, Native Americans lived in communities that would work together to farm, hunt, and gather to provide for their families. They were truly living in peace and harmony. European settlers arrived on the indigenous lands and were eager to show their metal iron tools, ships, and different sorts of food to the Native Americans. Not only did the settlers bring food and goods, but they also brought smallpox-infested blankets. The devastation brought upon by this disease was followed by many attempts of assimilation. Native American children were forced to move far from their homes and placed in boarding schools. Here, they would be taught the culture and way of life of the European settlers. The children were forbidden to speak their own language and weren't allowed to go home for years. They were taught trades such as baking and blacksmithing that were designed so they could be prepared to live in and work in the new civilized life. The European settlers did everything they could to try and transform the indigenous culture because they believed that their civilized way of life was the only way to live. Edward Buscombe states that the ultimate goal of the settler, or reformers, was to integrate Indians into the white society. These settlers craved power and control. Elise Marubio describes a vulnerable Native American woman as a celluloid maiden. Marubio explains that the status of a celluloid maiden is a raced and gendered object of the colonialist and patriarchal power. European settlers would target these vulnerable Native American women who they thought they could easily transform their culture and become their hero. The Native American population still faces racism today for practicing their culture. Hunting and fishing has always been a part of Native culture, and today there is a strong controversy about spearfishing. Natives who continue to spearfish are at risk of being harassed and even attacked for fishing on their own land. Treaty rights are still not being recognized or respected. The indigenous culture has been fighting just to exist for too many generations. When will it stop?